Hey, everybody, welcome to the Urban Outcast. I'm your host, the Outcast, Mark Urban. As I continue to interview people throughout Whatcom County and Bellingham, I've got somebody here tonight that's I find fascinating, who's kind of been involved in a lot of different things, a lot of businesses, a lot of activities in the community, and he's here to locally now. And, another thing, too, we're going to do is, as I introduce him, is you see got a little display here on the table. Been wanting to do a segment called Bourbon and BS. So we're going to kind of integrate that a little bit into this because I'm sure we'll digress onto some rabbit trails. Sip a little bourbon and talk about all the BS that's going on. So without further ado, I'm happy to have with me Steve Avila. Is that how you say your last name, my man?
Well, it depends on where you are in the world. Avila is how we say it in America.
Okay.
Avila is more Spain and Portugal, and Avila is more like South American, Central America. So
then, and where are you originally born? Where are you from? What's your lineage?
Sicily. Yeah,
Sicilian, man.
Yeah.
So you know how to make a good pizza?
Of course, all Sicilians can cook. It's just part of our culture.
Is that really true? Or are you BSing?
It is, absolutely.
Dude, I'm going to have you cook some good stuff. I want some real food, man.
Oh, yeah.
I want the real stuff.
I actually taught cooking classes for a couple years.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Okay, you shouldn't have told me that. Because there's the only one thing I like better than bourbon, and that's food.
Oh, man, me too. But I live like a hobo, so I don't really have a kitchen,
Yeah.
Got a little hot plate.
Well, I'm sure I can arrange something.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll have to have some fun.
That's often. So you're Sicilian. Let's get right into it. How did you get out here to the Northwest? Because you weren't born and raised here, right?
No, started off in the projects of South Philadelphia.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, we were a poor family, and one of the few white kids in a South Philadelphia projects, neighborhood. And so when I was 7 years old, I decided to pack my parents up and move them out to the West Coast. So.
You decided that, huh?
Nah, my father got laid off and actually came out here. My uncle was already out here, so we made the trek cross country.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And so where did you move out here to?
Puyallup. Yeah.
Okay.
And then been, born and raised, born in Philadelphia, but raised in
Pretty much in
Puyallup.
I was born in Kansas City, Missouri, but I was raised out here since I was 4.
Yeah, so we came out in like 1969, 70, somewhere in there.
That's about when we came out, yeah.
It's hard to do the math because I'm only 40 years old, so that's
Yeah, I know. I look good for 62, don't I? Yeah, that's what I keep saying. Well, cheers to that, my friend.
Yeah.
So you're out here now, and I know you kind of just from one of your main businesses. I call it your main business, the one I know, but Fitness Evolution in Bellingham.
Yeah.
And it used to be Gold's Gym. It's been a bunch of different things. So how did you get started in that?
Yeah, quite a history. Well, I have a merger and acquisition team, and they throw stuff at me all the time. And the funny thing is, they kept trying to get me to buy a gym, thinking I would be a good gym owner. And for 2 years, I kept telling them I don't want a gym.
Why did they think you'd be a good gym owner?
I'm into health and fitness. I've been formulating supplements for a long time. I've trained a lot of people in various things, including, law enforcement, military, firefighters, MMA.
So you're kind of
fighters.
like an Andy Frisella, kind of.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, you don't know Andy Frisella? No. He's an entrepreneur supplement guy. He started First Form.
Oh, okay,
supplements.
First Form,
and he's got podcasts now. He's one of my heroes, guys I follow. But okay,
I always flew low. I was very introverted. As a kid, Catholic schoolboy.
Yeah.
And
you got to toe the line. Catholic school, man.
8 years, and being
those nuns.
Puyallup was
they
essentially.
Ain't
Yeah, we lived in the boonies, and you really don't have friends. Being poor, you're working all the time, right? So picking berries from 8 years old, and you got your chores and doing yard work, and
I remember that.
It's interesting when you reflect back on how did I get here? How did I get here 6 decades later, right? And it's kind of funny. So what happened to me in Catholic school was I was one of the more advanced kids. So they would let me, for math, reading, and science, they would advance me 1 or 2 grades. And so I'd be sitting with the bigger kids. And I was tiny. I was I was so small. I looked like the little brother of somebody, right? I didn't even break 100 pounds until three years after high school.
Oh, wow.
I was a buck 35 until my 40s, and
You
then
didn't eat enough pizza.
I found the gym. But you know, I never had, the older kids wouldn't want to hang with me when I went to the upper grades. When I went back to my homeroom, I was tutoring the slower kids. So I learned how to mentor at a young age, but I hated it because I was always off in the corner. When we went to church, I was the cute little kid that could climb the ladder up to the pulpit and do the reading because I was good at reading. And so I didn't even sit with my class, even in church. I was always up front. So I learned how to publicly speak at a young age, learned how to mentor kids at a young age. And, you know, you just kind of become your own person. And so, you know, you advance yourself through life. And I see the things that I did, whether it was acting out as a kid or if it was, you know, I ended up at Boeing and ended up working special projects groups. Eventually, I was one of the very few people, actually the youngest person to get through the technical principal program they had, which knighted you in as an engineer, even though you didn't have a degree.
Oh, really? So what does the special projects do? Can you elaborate on that at all?
Nothing I can really speak about, but it's the most advanced projects we have in the country. You know,
So that's kind of top secret stuff?
yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was, and I evolved into that. You know, I actually got hired as a clerk type F, $6.42 an hour.
At Boeing?
At Boeing, the bottom of the barrel is
Really?
where I started, and I had some opportunities that I took along the way, which, you know, spun into, you know, more opportunities and, you know, hard work and using your brain. And next thing you know, I was one of two people in the company at that time to be offered a management position over engineers without a degree. So that was, but I didn't take it because I liked working on stuff and I didn't want to, you know, check boxes on paper. So.
Oh, yeah. Office work. Not my thing either. Yeah.
And now I have businesses. That's all I do, right?
That's as a contractor. That's my worst thing. I like to be out in the field building stuff, tearing stuff apart. I don't like to be doing paperwork. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I moved up to the Ham here in 2019 when I acquired Fitness Evolution, which is now FitEvo. We've rebranded.
Okay.
And
2019. So you got this gym right before COVID hit.
Yeah, and it was for me personally very tough times. I just went through some serious financial struggles with you know, divorce, and you know, I was pretty much starting over. And yeah, had a good year, was doing great, and then yeah, it got shut down.
So you're starting over. You just got into this gym, purchased this gym. How did that come about real quick, by the way? Just again, you said you had some investors, the acquisition
No,
team?
I did it myself. Just, you know, got a loan.
Okay.
Which was difficult at, you know, being in my 50s and just going through the struggles.
divorce.
And the divorce and everything.
Oh, man. That
You know, the
devastating.
banks the banks already kind of know when things are happening.
Yeah.
I've experienced that before. And so no one would talk to me. And one bank finally met with me. And the very first comment was, you look like a gym owner. And I said, man, am I supposed to be insulted right now? Or is that a compliment?
Well, you kind of do, because you're kind of a, you know, you're a stout little Italian guy, you know, you got the vibe. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, obviously I did a good enough song and dance where they backed me and things were great. Yeah. But then all of a sudden I've never in my life had the government control my business. And so the shutdowns happened and, you know, we had to shut the door and, but I still had to pay my bills, which is insane.
Yeah, you still got to pay the mortgage.
Well, I have rent.
And your taxes.
Yeah, rent. I have my SBA loan. They didn't pause the SBA loan, you know, even though it's a government loan. You still have, you know, all the utilities to pay, taxes to pay. And
So how does that sound right? Just to my audience, just think about that, guys. Just listen to what he's saying out there. The government shuts you down. You have government loans. They tell you can't do commerce, but yet they want you to continue paying them. Just let that sink in for a second. Anyway.
Yeah, that's what happened. So since the gyms and the barbershops, you know, got hit first, the restaurants were shortly thereafter.
What were some of the things they made you do, or you had to shut down for a while, like
Oh, yeah,
literally close the doors?
They were, and since I'm one of the bigger gyms around, they were certainly checking on me all the time. They were making sure I was getting reported that I was open and I wasn't. You know, you get these intense fines. It was what did they call it? They made it sound like the military was coming to kick my doors in if I didn't comply. Pretty scary
Really
letters.
emotionally charged
Oh, for
language.
sure. No, it was freaking me out because having worked with the government before, and you know what they're capable of, but you never thought it would happen to a little business owner, you know.
Right.
But then the PPP comes, and in the beginning, since we were the first ones, they didn't really have it figured out. So they said, okay,
Right.
you go through this big rigmarole with your accountants to figure out the formula, and they give you X amount of money. But the rules were you had 6 weeks to spend it on payroll. They wanted us to keep everybody on payroll because they didn't want to put them on unemployment at that point in time. And at the end of 6 weeks, everything would be open back up. And as long as you reached your, your employee level that you were pre-shutdown, then they would forgive the PPP loan. Well, we all know what happens. They didn't open back up in 6 weeks. And so it's like, okay, how am I going to pay this loan back after I've just dispersed it all to the employees, right? So getting my CPAs and my lawyers involved, and arguments going back and forth between the government and myself through my lawyers, which was costing me money. And then they kicked the can down the road. Well, we'll give it another 6 weeks. Well, we'll give it another month, right? And then they finally got their act together and came up with what we ended up going through. But at that point, I had spent another $7,000-8,000 on, legal fees trying to fight it. So I lost money on that whole thing, and it did nothing but put me further in debt. Then the EIDL loan came out. In order to survive, I had to get the EIDL loan.
Now, what's this again? The IDA loan?
Yeah, that's so. They gave a very low interest loan. It was the emergency disaster loan or whatever they called it. So they give you good terms on the money, but it's another loan. So it's like, hey, Steve, we know we shut you down. We cost you millions of dollars. We'll give you some money on a cheap loan. So we'll give you another loan to help pay back the loan that you already owe, right? It makes no zero sense. So now I have 2 loans to pay.
Right.
Right. Meanwhile, I had just closed the overhead door acquisition in 2020. So that was already in play.
So now you bought another business.
Yeah. So I had another business locally here.
Overhead Door, which is well known in Bellingham.
Yeah. Very, very good company. And both of these companies are solid in this neck of the woods. And the overhead door company actually owns the patent on the overhead door. Yeah. They're over 100 years old. There's like 500 people like me that own the distribution center. So big company, very well funded, been around, made in America. And so they shut down their factory and I couldn't get doors.
So you got the gym that shut down. Now Overhead Door gets shut down.
Yeah. Well, we became... So in the beginning, right before I bought it, it was non-essential, and they were able to make them essential because garage door companies were servicing like fire department doors and other businesses that are quote unquote essential, like Costco, Home Depot,
strip
the
clubs.
Places where COVID doesn't go.
The strip clubs.
So yeah,
they were essential there for a while.
So it was just so chaotic and illogical, but since I couldn't get doors, there were a lot of large contractors locally, which you probably know all of them, that were having lawsuits coming at me because I couldn't get a door. Oh, and there were contracts that through the acquisition that I had inherited. And I literally had people down pounding their fists on the table, threatening my employees. Where I had, it was, some of these big apartment buildings or storage units that were out there. In the contracts that were signed, if you can't perform your service, there's penalties, daily penalties. So I had penalties over $300,000 a day coming at me from multiple contractors, big ones, some of them national. And I'm just laughing at myself like, this is just so illogical.
How could you have? Yeah, you're thinking, how could I have inherited this size of a shitstorm?
So I fortunately, and I had some key people leave. They just didn't want to fight the fight, and some went to the competitors.
Well, why would they go to the competitors? They're not in any better shape, right?
Well, so the so the interesting thing was Overhead Door Company closed their main factory. Some of the competitors are getting their stuff from offshore, out in other places, so they were able to stay alive, right?
Okay.
So that was disheartening. And I'm very loyal. I fight the fight to the end. I don't just run. But not everybody's like that. So yeah, so we fought through it, and it was difficult. But at the end of the day, the crew that the base crew that I had stuck it out, fought the fight, and love them to death. We started manufacturing doors from our scrap pile. Some things we made from scratch if there were, something we could weld up and engineer ourselves, fully knowing that I would have to tear those doors back out and put in a spec door after everything opened back up. So again, losing 7 figures, it just was killing me. And I didn't qualify for a lot of the, government assistance because I had acquired the company after the shutdowns. So,
Okay.
so that, bad timing. So that was a really horrible time, but I, somehow made it through it all. And
So I'm just curious, back to the gym a bit. Can you tell me some of the difficult things that you had to navigate owning a gym with, I mean, the protocols, what, you got to wear masks now, you got a 6 foot distance. I mean, once they opened up, what were some of the things you had to navigate?
well, some of the hardest things. So there's a faction here in Whatcom County that is strictly no vax, no mask, and there's another side that's extreme.
All mask,
Yeah,
all
you wear
vax.
your mask when you're alone in the car,
Right.
with the windows down. And so those two, I mean,
Collide.
yeah, extreme polarities colliding in my gym.
Wow.
And my poor staff in the middle of it.
Oh, yeah.
And so the other thing that was happening was that even before we opened up, it was nuts because we still had people coming and taking pictures of the gym. I was remodeling inside, and there was people like, well, the door's open, they must be open, right? And I'd have Inslee's militia come and knocking on my door, and
Really, actually, state
they
government.
would show up, and they would see what I'm doing and give me a pass, right? And so that kept going. So I knew and that there were a lot of gyms staying open around town and out in the county. And I never said anything. Some of them called me up and said, "Hey, we're not going to survive if we close down. What are you doing?" And I'm like, "They're door knocking me every day. I have to stay shut down." So I just weathered it out. But when we reopened, first thing that happened was at the end of, let's see, we reopened. We had to have head count everybody coming in because we had certain percentage capacity we could have.
Does that have to do with the oxygen levels or the quality of the air?
My background is science, like not political science, real science. And no, there were so many things that were illogical to me. One being, how does COVID know that when you're sitting down at a restaurant, it's not going to attack you, but when you stood up and put your mask on, you were safe, right?
Well, you come to the door with your mask on. They escort you to your booth where now you can sit down, take off your mask, and there's a magic bubble that covers it from going anywhere, right? Then as you get up and leave, you put your mask back on and eat. Yeah, that's essentially what you're saying. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, but it gets even funnier. So I actually got on a phone call with Inslee's epidemiologist at the time.
Really?
Yeah, and we had a great conversation as science people. Again, not political science, real
You
science.
got through to Inslee's epidemiologist.
Absolutely, yeah.
How did you manage that?
Well, I just wrote a nice letter. I wasn't mean. I just, wrote down some logical comments, and
Really?
she responded
Okay.
in email, and I said, "I'd love to jump on a call with you. I'm a scientist in my background from Boeing. I understand spreadsheets and data, and I don't understand
So you
your data."
speak the language, and that kind of caught her attention.
Yeah. So we walked through her data, and I said, "Okay, so you're saying that I got a 40-something% chance of dying if I contract this disease, and so let me see the data that supports it." So she showed me, and what the data was showing. And if we remember in the very beginning phases of this, of course, it's going to attack people that are immunocompromised, right? It was all the old folks' homes, the senior centers. And of course, if you're already in that condition and you get even pneumonia, which really is what this is. I've had lung issues since I was a kid. I've had pneumonia many times in my life. And when you have something, whenever I get a cold flu, I'm immediately concerned about my lungs because over time they start to get damaged. So now here we have a virus that the first thing it does is attack your lungs. I've dealt with that my whole life. And so I kind of know the protocol. They didn't really know the protocol, and they were intubating a lot of people and killing them because they just did it the wrong way.
Well, the CDC protocols were very destructive.
Yeah, and I know I had traveled January of 2020. I had been traveling around. I met with some people from China, of all places. Been to Vegas, went to New York, and I ended up getting very sick. And I just thought it was pneumonia. I was in bed for 3 weeks. I was running a temperature like 104, 105. It was actually my accountant at the gym that forced me to go to urgent care. You know, I'm the rub dirt in it kind of guy.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And I'll be that weird smell.
I don't go to the doctor unless my leg's falling off.
That's a basic dude stuff. So I would be that strange smell from the neighbors. Hey man, you want to do a wellness check on this guy, right? But I did go to the doctor, and here's the interesting thing. So usually when I have pneumonia, I can kick it in a week and a half, 2 weeks, at least get back on my feet. This time it just wasn't going away. And when I went in, they didn't have a COVID test. They didn't know anything about it just then. But they x-rayed my lungs, and you could see the pneumonia had dissipated, but my lungs there was just like this pure white screen of inflammation. And so the doctor called a specialist, and the very first question they asked me was, have you been exposed to chemicals, like some severe chemical exposure, because your lungs look like they've been exposed to chemicals? And so, of course, my guess is I probably had COVID, and it turned into pneumonia, you know, and so you saw the black spots of pneumonia, and you saw all this inflammation. Fortunately, I have a CPAP machine, and I had it, you know, they gave me antibiotics, and during the day I was just choking out. I had an oximeter, and I watched my oxygen just drop down below 80, and I just kick my CPAP machine on and be force breathing.
I've got one
through
too,
the days,
and
right?
I tell you what, it saved my life.
That's probably what saved my life in that condition, because had no idea. But anyway, then fast forward, and all mayhem starts, right? And then just to, you know, add some insult to injury, we reopen, and I don't know who, but I was getting reported for not following the mask policy every week. Every week. I got on a first name basis with Inslee's militia. And I'm just thinking, God, there's all these gyms that are open. Nobody's wearing a mask in their gyms. Why isn't anyone turning them in, right? It's really bizarre to me.
Yeah.
So at the end, when Inslee finally said that it's okay to take your mask off, I asked old Lenny, who was the guy that was always calling me. I said, can you just tell me how many people in Whatcom County and other gyms have been turned in besides me? You know, and this was July of 21. And he looks it up. He said, no one. And I said, how about...
Really?
I said, when is the last time any other gym in the whole county's been turned in? And it was when we first started. So how did I get turned in over 100 times when I'm following the law? I was following the rules so meticulously with all the fights and people quitting my gym because
there had to be somebody inside.
Oh, I don't know what it was, but anyway, but I'm the new guy. I'm the big guy. You know, who knows? But that was insulting, and it hurt. And then the floods happened, and my gym got flooded. So now here my gym, I go through all of this turmoil.
Your gym got flooded during just because of the rain.
Well, we had a record snowfall, then it warmed up, then we had record rain,
that's right?
Lake Whatcom filled up. They released the dam. I'm right on the creek, Whatcom Creek there, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then we just so happened to have a high tide, like an extreme high tide at the same time.
Storm.
Perfect storm. I went down. I remember I went down to the gym. I went out back, purposely looked at the creek. I thought, it's high, but it's okay. I told my maintenance guy, Hector, to go get some sandbags, and let's get some sandbags out. I rolled over to overhead door, and 20 minutes later, my GM calls me and says, hey, man, are we shutting down? We're flooding out. I'm like, we're not flooding out. I just went and checked the creek. Everything's fine. He goes, no, the water's across the whole gym. It happened that quick.
No way.
And so I hot-tailed it back down there, and I'm like, oh my God. It just,
Did
somebody
you get
hates-
any video of this by any chance?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, I want to get some of that from you. We're gonna put that in. That's insane.
All right, you can see the water getting up a little ways here. And we're making progress. We've had getting a little better. Had a lot of people in here helping, but you can see where we got a lot of the water out of here. There's still quite a bit coming through here, but we're starting to get dry. A little bit at a time. This aisle's clear now. This aisle's almost clear. Dumbbell rack's almost clear. So we're getting there. So thank God, my staff was awesome. Members were awesome. We bailed water from 8:30 in the morning until it subsided, and then we mopped everything up. And we had by midnight, you couldn't even tell there was a flood. And when we
And this is you and your employees.
Employees and some members that volunteered.
Well, God bless them.
Yeah, it was. I'm so thankful for all of it. And so it was funny that some people coming into the gym, they had no idea that we had been flooded, and they said, "Man, you guys are lucky," because I have video of people wakeboarding in my parking lot getting pulled by car. Yeah, people were running paddle boards down Iowa Street. It was just crazy. And they were like, "Man, you're so lucky you didn't get flooded." And I'm like, "We were flooded. It's just a lot of
don't
elbow
even know.
grease." Yeah.
Wow.
And so, but in all of that story of my problems, this is what spawned Whatcom CITYZEN. So, as bad as I had it, and as targeted as I felt at that point in my life, one of the things that I live by is when I feel bad, instead of complaining, whining, feeling sorry for myself, thinking that somebody else should do something for me, I find somebody to do something for. There's nothing more uplifting than helping other people. Mm-hmm. So I sat back, I'm thinking, well, yeah, okay, I've been through all this crap, but these people in the county have lost their houses. They got kids.
Yeah,
I was
got devastated.
I was a single parent. I couldn't imagine losing all the sentimental values, all your appliances, your house. I mean, having your boots at the top of the stairs so you could walk down through the mud to get out of the house. It was just, it was surreal. So I asked my staff at Overhead Door and at the gym, let's find somebody that really needs help and help them. Put the word out. We'll adopt the family. We had over 50 families hit us up the first day.
Oh yeah.
And then the question is, okay, Steve, who are we going to help? Well, I'm not going to deny anybody. So I thought, all right, I think in my life, working with all the things that I've seen and done, and unfortunately, this is human existence. We all rally up when there's traumatic events. Think of 9/11, how we all came together, right? So I said, all right, we're going to put the word out to everyone, all my customers, employees, everybody, right? And we'll see what we can do, see how many people we can help. One of my employees' wives spent 3 days, I don't think she slept, putting together this amazing website with all of we just serialized the people, but it's just, a 5-year-old girl, here's her sizes. She needs shoes, pants, shirt, whatever, parents, everything. So you could go to the website, click a button, and say, okay, I'm going to buy for this kid, that adult, and then they would just write the number on the bag and then drop it off.
Wow.
And then it got so crazy. I was having 5 and 6 truckloads of stuff dropped off at the gym every day.
Really?
Every day. And so
that's fabulous.
We found the church in Ferndale that offered their basketball court to stage at. One of my employees went to the church, and we had over 3,000 items dropped off. I had over 100 volunteers to wrap these gifts. So, and remember, this was around Christmas time, right?
Oh, okay.
So we got everything not only fulfilled on the website, whatever was left, I just batted clean up and bought it and put it in a pile. I had my Overhead Door guys out in the trucks delivering. I had, volunteers from my gym membership and just random customers that, that just heard about it. So in 3 weeks, we had compiled over 3,000 gifts for these 50-something families and had them delivered to their doorstep. It was amazing.
Wow.
So
That is amazing.
proves the point that even with the polarity in politics and the masks, the vaccines, and all this polarization that was caused, the BLM protests going on, there's still humanity left in people. So I wanted to capitalize on that and say, okay, now that we understand that we're still caring about each other at some level, how do we go further with this? And so that kind of sparked up the whole
If we
CITYZEN
could just, what you just said there's struck me. I mean, look, I'm a very political guy, but you're right in that bringing it back around. That isn't it amazing and unfortunate how tragedy will bring people together, will bring the humanity out of people. And sometimes, unfortunately, it has to get bad enough for people to say, okay, let's come together,
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like that's what you're describing here.
That's exactly right. So why wait till then, right? Why
That's
can't
the
we
question,
do it now?
right?
And I'm of the mindset, I've seen extremes on, especially some of the work I've done. I've seen how bad it can get. But if we just kind of, I believe this, you believe that, that's okay. That's what makes it fun in life. That's what makes life a good story. If everybody was the same, we'd be boring.
Right.
It's when you start imposing your will, whether,
Right.
if you're a vegan, everyone should be a vegan,
Right.
if you're a CrossFitter,
You start
everyone should be a
sanctioning
CrossFitter.
it. Yeah.
I don't care what people's beliefs are in life. I love to hear their stories, right? Just don't impose your will on other people because that's being a bully.
Absolutely.
And as a small kid in school, can imagine how much I got bullied. And so I just be you, just do you. And it's great. If you want to share your story, that's great, but it doesn't mean everyone else should be like you. And you shouldn't try to make everyone conform to your ways. And that's
100%.
That's just how I look at it.
100%.
So, and we can all agree that we want our kids to have a safe place. We can all agree that we want a nice, clean environment, clean streets. We don't want people assaulting us, right? These are all common things that people want in their neighborhoods. And so,
But it's just, how do we get there?
yeah. And so I took a page out of a book. The neighborhood that I had come from down in King County in Auburn, I had just built a nice house for my ex. And we had gotten robbed about 6 weeks after we moved in. And I let my neighbors know, and they were just like, yeah, it happens all the time here. And I didn't know it, but
That's sad.
we had moved into one of the highest escalation of crime places in King County. Not murders but theft.
Break-ins and theft and car prowlers, probably.
And so I thought, well, everyone's just not doing anything about this. We accept it. This is not acceptable to me, being Sicilian and Scottish, not acceptable. So I rallied up the neighborhood and we suppressed the crime. And it's pretty simple. Everybody can do it. And that's what CITYZEN's all about. You need instant communication. You need eyes on the street. If 100% of your neighbors are involved in this, and I know, okay, Mark's son drives this car. I know he comes in and out. His friend Brad comes here and he has that car. And, Mark's girlfriend drives that car. And I'm aware of what's going on next door. And I was guilty of the same thing. I live in a neighborhood where the houses were close together. There's 400 houses in our neighborhood. And I didn't know anybody. I didn't even try. I'd drive into my garage. I'd pull out. I go down the street. I come home. I'm back in the garage. And you glance out once in a while, but situational awareness, it's way down here. Once everyone started getting to know each other, and I got everybody on an app where we're not going checking Facebook posts once in a while. There's actual app that's just our neighborhood, and there's a thread that's for reporting suspicious activity.
Now, is this an app that exists or one you created?
There's many apps now. This was like 8-9 years ago, but WhatsApp is an easy one, right? It's free. You can create your own personal threads in that. And so I just created a thread for reporting suspicious activity in the neighborhood and another thread for who's home and wants to go take a look and check it out, right? And so
this neighborhood watch, how did you initiate that? Roll that out. What did that look like?
Well, I just started doing it on my own. The same thing with
Meaning
CITYZEN.
what?
I would patrol the neighborhood at night. If I saw something, I would go, ask a question and ask them to leave.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
But
so
how did you get the neighbors involved then?
They, a couple of them saw me, and I would engage them because I knew they would just walk away, and I'd let them know, hey man, I'm just walking around at night. I'm not the bad guy, but I saw this and I did that, and next thing you know, I had a following, and so we ended up becoming the neighborhood that everyone wished they were. We had huge charities. When we did our food drives, it was over 2,000 pounds of food in one day from our neighborhood.
Your neighborhood did
Yeah.
food drives.
When we did
Wow.
when we did Toys for Tots, and the police would get involved, the firefighters would get involved, they'd decorate out their cars. We'd have a big parade, and everyone would leave, toys or gift cards or whatever out on their porches. And we had this huge rally, right? We ended up getting a citizen award for all of the things that we did for that neighborhood. And I haven't been there since 2016. It's still going today. So
Really?
that's the playbook, right? So I come up here, all this mayhem's ensuing. Things went crazy, when they made it legal to steal out of the stores, and the fentanyl hit, and it was really unfortunate. I was at the time I was getting serious with a gal, and we found out on a cruise that her son had died of a fentanyl overdose, not knowing even what it was.
In the Bellingham area?
Yeah, he was here. He was one of the first ones.
Really?
And I had to trying to evac back with a mother that just lost her son. That was tough.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that that one hit me because I had seen, she was like the 8th parent I've seen lose a kid, and most of them were suicides. That one wasn't. But when you hear, when a woman gets the news,
Yeah.
hears that she's lost a child,
Yeah.
there's this guttural wail that you never forget.
Yep. No, I talked about that with that kid that was murdered in Bellingham. I heard his mom yelling. It was in the Tasha Thompson interview. She was the case officer on that, and I'm a block down, and I could hear this woman crying and screaming for her kid, and it's something you never forget, never leaves your mind. So yeah.
And when it's caused by, something outside of a drug overdose, well, you got to get involved.
Yeah. So it was a drug overdose, right?
Yeah, it
okay.
was.
Okay.
He was, and it wasn't like he was really into that game.
Fentanyl's so potent. I mean, it only takes
Oh
one
yeah,
time.
I had no idea. I had to learn all about it. I really researched it after the fact, just like I researched human trafficking when I was down in Auburn. I didn't realize how
that it's
prevalent.
the number one industry right now.
Oh, it's so huge. And it's not
yeah.
it's not just, we think of human trafficking as prostitution, right?
Sure. It's much
But
more than that.
the cartels are a business. Businesses
Absolutely.
have profit centers. And this is where it's unfortunate with the people that find themselves in the circumstance of being on the street and having had a kid in that situation that I've had to, push away.
Yeah.
It gets so ugly. And the amount of trafficking that happens up and down the I-5 corridor, and we're a border town.
Oh, we're a main thoroughfare.
And to allow it to come up here from Tacoma and Bellingham, because I saw it happen in Tacoma and I saw it coming into Puyallup. It is absolutely insane.
Well, then it doesn't help that we have wide open borders.
Yeah,
That plays into it 100%.
that's a whole nother ball game.
Oh yeah.
That's you think about and we'll have this discussion later, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna finish.
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
thought.
Finish your thought.
But yeah, the human trafficking side is not just prostitution. It's organ donation. It's
Oh wow.
yeah, it's
Oh yeah, organ harvesting. Yep.
absolutely.
Yep, that's right.
If you look at for example, we see the guy, people on the street corner holding the signs up.
Sure.
Why is there not 10 or 12 people fighting over that street corner? How do they politely change, and say, okay, now it's your turn? It's organized, right? When the other insult to injury that happened to me was my truck's at overhead door got broken into. I lost like $60,000 worth of tools, and that was on the news. Those tools were gone. They knew exactly where to go fence them. They know there's fencing areas around here. At that time, it was behind Lowe's and at one of the hotels. Never see those tools again. They know how to get, and so the people on the street not only are customers for the organized crime groups, but they're also employees. They go make money, right? In these profit centers, whether it's panhandling, prostitution, theft, it's everything, dealing drugs. And so they're pawns in the game, and they don't know any different because they just want their next fix. And that's where it's really interesting when you hear people like Jenny Burton talk about her experience.
I want to get her on the show.
Yeah, she's been there and done that. My kid was in there and done that. You're not going to get out unless you're forced to get out. There's very, very, very few people that are going to just wake up one day and say, I've had enough. I'm going to clean up my act, right? And I've helped some people on the way, get out of it for a while, but that little itch is still there. You have to have something that you have a new addiction for, right? The gym is a great place. We do bios and member spotlights all the time, and we hear these stories of
really
people
come through your gym.
Sure.
Really.
And it's empowering to see, you're simply, if you have an addictive personality, you need to replace it with something better, right?
That is so true. Wow. That is actually what you just said. We need to pause on that. That is very true. And we all have that to some level. Some of us worse than others. Like, I'm an impulsive guy, right? If I see something and my brain goes, I got to do that. I've learned that I have to stop and think about it first. Otherwise, I could get myself in big trouble because I've done it before. It plays on your impulses.
Yeah. Those voices in your head, that's why I've been involved in so many things. My head's in every direction all the time.
Right.
And,
that's how guys like us are wired.
Yeah.
Though.
And I don't have like an addictive personality for, alcohol or anything like that, or smoking. Mine is, I just love the rush of projects.
Yeah.
Like trying to
create
things
in a way, and creating it.
And things that when people say, good luck with that, it'll never work.
Oh,
it's on, right?
He's Sicilian, guys.
It's game on.
And Scottish. I mean, come on. Don't challenge that.
Don't challenge it.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened with CITYZEN. When I first started, thinking about, all right, where can I go next with this to apply what I learned down in Auburn? At that time, I was getting my zen on the trails. The woods are my zen.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, quick side story. I loved to hunt and fish when I was younger, and even worked for a hunting guide for a while for side money. And I wanted to go up into the Pasayten wilderness because we didn't have the internet and cell phones and all this crazy stuff we have now, right? So you have these legends of, in the Pasayten wilderness, there's areas where no man's ever set foot before. Of course, we all know it's BS now. But as a kid, I'm just like, wow, that's cool. Bigfoot, I'd get up there, be like Jeremiah Johnson. Well, I got a truck. I asked the company I was with, I asked them to lay me off for the winter. And so I drove up in the middle of nowhere and ended up getting snowed in for the winter. Had my 18th birthday up there. And I was up there for months by myself.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. And it was an experience.
But wait a minute. You're up there for months, but like you had a store you could get to, right? Or like
I was in the middle. Like I drove out to the middle of nowhere.
How did you survive?
Well, you just do, I woke up one morning.
Did you have food storage?
So yeah,
I'm sorry. That's just fascinating. I want you to unpack this a little bit. You're stuck in the middle of the Pasayten wilderness. Pasayten. Satan. There you go. Yeah. For 18 months?
No. It was only like probably 4 or 5. I was up there for about 6 weeks. I went into town, got some supplies, came back up, and then the snow fell.
Okay.
So I was
there
for probably 4 months.
Okay, still.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I just woke up one morning. I had this little, $5 dome tent that I got at the Goodwill. And I woke up and I thought, wow, it warmed up. It's like summer. Well, that's kind of weird. And then I went to push the flap of the tent open. It wouldn't move. It was because all the snow. I had an igloo.
Are you serious?
And then I was like, you have the moment of panic. And then it's just like, the two words I live by in life are acceptance and purpose. First you have to accept that shit can happen, right? And okay, that happened. Now what are you going to do about it? And so that's where purpose comes in. Every day, what gets you out of bed to drive you to whatever you're going to be doing, right? And through life, that changes. In that case, the purpose was survival. And how do I get out of here as fast as possible? And so my purpose became walking down the road and creating tracks in the ruts, the tire ruts, right? Because the snow was deep. And so I was just pushing snow out of the way so that when it did start to melt, I could get out sooner than later. And so each day I'd go a little further down the road, a little further down the road. So I had miles of ruts preformed, by the time it started to melt off so I could get out of there. And then I had a chainsaw. I had just gotten, filled up my gas cans and everything.
So how did you, do you have any survival experience? You weren't some special ops guy or something. Are you just a smart guy? Like, how did you know to do this stuff?
I spent so much time in the woods that it just felt, I wasn't even freaked out really. I had a moment of panic, but then it was like, yeah, that's all right. I just, I had guns. I can hunt.
Right.
I had sea rations. They were the canned sea rats that they were getting rid of while they were bringing into MREs. My buddy's father was a supply sergeant at Fort Lewis at the time. And I took tons of cases of those and stashed them in my truck. So I had those.
So you were somewhat prepared.
Yeah.
You'd thought ahead a little bit
Yeah.
that, hey, something could happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just saw down like standing dead timber and build big fires. And, by the time I got out of there, the snow had melted out probably as big as your house around the big fires I would build, so I had,
Really?
yeah. So it was like all this dry ground around the fire and then
This
snow.
is like a National Geographic documentary here.
So yeah, came back a man from that one.
I'd say so. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
Okay.
anyway,
Yeah.
it just goes to show you, we're capable of a lot of things. We just don't try. We're complacent. And
You're so complacent.
yeah. And it's,
I mean, I'm just as guilty as the next too.
yeah, it's, we
And there's
like
things that come along that shake you and have to bring you out of that complacency. And that really shows you in those moments, who's built for it and who's not.
absolutely. So, when I go to the woods for my thinking, trying to think my way through the COVID crap that was going on. And then they started smashing cars at the trailheads. And I was afraid to park
Wow.
at certain trailheads because the gravel turned into broken glass.
Just
right?
breaking in or just for...
Well, they'd smash and steal stuff out of your car,
Okay.
right? And so I was just like, man, you just can't catch a break. So I just started posting up in the parking lots to make sure that people could hike and decompress.
So now you're doing security at trailheads.
Yeah.
Wow.
And of course, the first thing that happened was the Parks Department had issue with me, but they didn't know what. They were questioning, like, what are you doing here? You need a permit to solicit, or have an event. People thought I had a running event going on. And when I tell them, no, I'm just watching your car to make sure it's safe. Well, that's kind of odd behavior.
Right. Right.
And it was,
Sure you are.
yeah, right. And so it escalated up to the superintendent, and he said, "Man, we've never had to deal with somebody like you before." And I'm like, "There's nothing to deal with." Well, we just want to make sure that you're not advertising that we're collaborating with you. And like, you call me, I'm just a citizen that is, I don't like my car getting broken into, and I know everyone else doesn't. I know I'm probably not the only one avoiding some of my favorite trailheads in fear of having my windows bashed in and stuff taken out of my car. And I like how people say, leave your doors unlocked, don't leave anything in your car. Well, you're always going to have something in your
Right,
car,
right.
right? And why am I having to, again, I feel like I'm being bullied. You're imposing your will on me now. Like, hey, if you leave something in your car, I'm going to smash your windows and take it. Theft is just wrong.
Yeah.
And what I also learned in Auburn was they have electric devices that can unlock and
Right.
start
Yeah, I've
most
heard
cars.
of that too.
So it
Yeah.
doesn't even matter.
Right.
You know,
Well, they're doing that with the Kias. The Kias were really easy to break into, I guess, because of the electronics.
they're all of them. I have all kinds of stories, but I alerted the news because they were doing a lot of stories on me back in Auburn.
An Auburn neighborhood plagued by crime decided not to take it anymore.
Cairo 7's Rob Munoz reports how their high-tech crime-fighting solution got the attention of police.
For months, scenes like this car prowl were an almost nightly occurrence in Auburn's Edgeview neighborhood. Steve Avila says it wasn't until he was hit several times that a light bulb went on in his head.
So at the time, I wasn't aware that these guys can get into your cart very easily. Started alerting a couple of my neighbors.
Avila neighbors created their own app, scheduling fellow homeowners to keep an eye out through shifts and sharing messages to track prowlers. Edgeview Watch looks out for 366 homes, and Auburn police told us while other parts of town saw stagnant or rising crime, Edgeview was the only area with a significant drop.
They pulled the crime report on our neighborhood, and they noticed crime, crime, crime. Oh, wait, there's no crime now. What happened?
That idea now has the recognition of Auburn police as a model program.
You and your vigilance in establishing an effective community watch group is the perfect example of individual citizens coming together to help each other.
Avila shared with other block watchers in town that the app isn't the only key. It's getting to know your neighbor. From what was a nightly occurrence in November has turned into sporadic pop-up crimes today.
We've got one gal who's going through some life changes right now who just shared with us that she's able to sleep at night knowing that there's somebody that's kind of got an eye out.
Edgeview Watch told me their goal is to show that just anyone can do this and set up their own block watch and kick crime out. In Auburn, I'm Rob Munoz, Cairo 7 News.
They actually went to a car lot. They bought one of these things and went to a car lot. And out of 26 cars, they opened and started 25 of them, different models.
All but one?
Yeah. So the thing that was going on down there is they would get these fobs. They would go to a park and ride, and they have there's two types. One resonates off of your regular key fob, so you want to put it out in a Faraday cage when you go to bed. The other one was that they came out with was really targeting all the electronic locks, the fancy cars. So they go to a park and ride, see you get on the bus, either resonate off of your fob or whatever, just pull down your visor. Okay, here's the address, drive to your house, unload everything that they want to steal, go park your car back in the park and ride, and then you come home and your house is rolled.
Wow.
And the neighbors are thinking, oh, Bob took the day off. His car's in the driveway, right?
Just like that.
Just like that.
Wow.
Yeah, they're pretty clever.
And so you discovered this.
Yeah, so that's why neighbors need to watch out for each other, right? And it's a neighborhood is one thing, a city or a county is a whole different thing. So my new project was, how do I do this countywide? So trailheads were a great way to anchor it because regardless of which side of the vaccine, mask, politics, religion, whatever you're on, everyone can agree that they love the outdoors up here in Bellingham. There's such beautiful geography, all this great places to hike. You know, whether you're paddleboarding, mountain biking, hiking, whatever it is, why should that be taken away from us because of the people that are unruly and doing these bad things, right? And so it just, again, it's the bad stuff that brings people together. And so people started to come and sit with me at the parking lots. And it evolved into, a bigger group. And then it's like, okay, what else can we do? Hate the litter downtown. The sidewalks are trashed. So we started picking up litter. All the graffiti on the buildings, business owners like me getting tagged, we went down, Kenny Austin and his group trained us on how to remove graffiti. And so they would alert us on where it was popping up. So we would go down and, start beautifying the buildings for the business owners.
And who's Kenny Austin?
Kenny Austin, yeah.
From
Bellingham, yeah, he's part of the Bellingham. They're the downtown group that does all the cleanup in town. They're
the downtown project.
Yeah, the downtown.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I've had a few people on the show about that, and there's different
great guys,
different opinions about that depending on who you talk to.
Oh yeah, for sure. But at the end of the day, we're trying to do good things around the community. We've done. Of course, we've done food drives. We've adopted families. I try to adopt families that are not in the system. And they're, people like me that are too proud to do it, but they're right on the edge. We just seek that out through word of mouth. I mean, last year at the end. Usually we do that in the fall and winter. So we adopted a dozen families last year and got their wish list put together and took care of it. We've cleaned houses for PTSD vets and battered women that are in.
And this is all under the CITYZEN project?
All under CITYZEN. So right now I turned it into a nonprofit. I'm the sole funder of everything, but we just put up the donate button on our website. You're going to love this. So,
And what is the website?
the website is, even though I call our group Whatcom CITYZEN because we're in Whatcom County, I've had other counties reach out to me. So the website is CITYZEN Now. So I took the word citizen and turned it into CITYZEN. So Citizen Now is the government.
Right.
Then CITYZEN Now, that's us.
Right.
So they can screw it up, we can fix it.
Absolutely. I love that. Perfect.
Little irony there. I didn't know it when I got the website, but
That's
I started
perfect.
Googling, CityZen Now, and the government sites kept popping up. I'm like, what's this? Oh, well, that's
Oh, really?
a little bit of irony there.
Really? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So
So you get the, and so where's it at now?
right now we have over 500 volunteers that work, and we do several events every week. It's very social, and we don't let people get into heavy politics or religion or whatever and start imposing will. Right? It's just a group of good people that get together and
You
do
keep
good
focused
things.
on the fact of
Yeah.
helping people regardless.
Absolutely.
Of
And the
political
reward
beliefs.
is, there's nothing that feels better than the appreciation of helping someone else.
Absolutely.
And so we just kind of thrive on that and ask for ideas. What else does the community need? And we provide it.
And how do you get involved in this?
Very easy. You can go to the website and sign up, or you can just email whatcomcityzen@gmail.com and ask to be added to the list. And the cool thing about being added to the list is you get a say in maybe where we're going to be at the next trail thing. So if there's a particular trail that you're afraid to go to because you're in fear of getting your car broken into, there's some of them like Pine and Cedar's one of them because it's hidden parking lot. You'll know when we're going to be there because you'll get the newsletter every week. There's a sign up thing that passes every time we have a sign up. You're going to get that email, and I break it up into small segments, right? So, 15 minutes, half hour, and you sign up for a shift, and then you show up for your shift. I figure if everybody in the county gave 15 minutes of time per month, how many man hours is that, right? 250,000 people in the county. That's a lot of hours that you can organize into, a project. And I look at it as like a rugby scrum, right? Everybody piles together and pushes together. And so when you have a particular project, whether it's, cleaning a house or picking up litter in a block, I mean, it's fast. In an hour, you get a lot done.
And how is this day structured? Do you have team leaders?
Yeah, we just started that. Right now, it's just been heavy load on myself and a couple of my
You're
employees
probably
at the gym.
looking for some good leader.
Absolutely. And as we start getting donations, now that we're legit, 501c3, we can start taking the donations. My goal now is because I put a lot of money into this right now with paying people to do stuff
Out of your pocket.
Yeah, and buying all the supplies and whatever. But I truly want to get to the point where we can hire people that will take this thing over, because I am not the guy to run a nonprofit.
Right.
It's
You want it to function on its own without you having to be there.
And there's a lot of people that are passionate about it that we can create job opportunities for once we get the funding. And as this thing progresses, the big vision is every neighborhood in America needs this. If you can rally up your communities in these little micro neighborhoods, it doesn't matter what's happening at the top. You can create your own oasis of peaceful living. And like I say, in Auburn, our neighborhood was a neighborhood everybody wanted to be. And they would seek us out. And I met with dozens of neighborhoods, and I would show up. They would have everybody show up. I'd give a little spiel on how it works. But there's work. There's whoever's going to start it off is going to put in some time. The reward is worth it, though. And I'm too busy because I work and I have kids and this and that. Hey, I'm busy too. The more people that get involved, the less time needs to be put in. Many hands make for light lifting, and that's really what it's about. Together, we're most effective.
Absolutely. I always talk about that just as my mission is doing this podcasting, and is that, we're in a fight right now, and it's being fought in the digital media, and I've joined the fight, whether that's be it politics or getting people involved in community. Um, you know, the battle is there's always evil that's trying to destroy good, and I'm trying to expose that. I'm trying to bring truth to the situation, and this is my arena. This is my little piece of getting into the battle, picking up my digital rifle, so to speak, and joining the fight. There's tons of podcasts out there. I mean, I don't know where this is going to go, but all I know is I'm going to do it. I'm just
Yeah.
going to keep doing it. I'm going to interview fascinating people, business owners, people like you throughout the community, because you got to start locally, and people need to know what's going on. And there's a lot of people that can't sit around like I do and listen to podcasts all day and get all the information. So I'm trying to be a liaison to bring that information to you. And there's things that are going to be kooky. There's things that are going to be like, I can't believe that. I want to make people think. And there's a lack of critical thinking these days.
Sure.
Huge lack of critical thinking. And we've kind of been programmed, trust the media, trust the government. And I'm sorry, it's literally the opposite of that. I mean, our government does not necessarily have our best interests at hand anymore. And we've seen that on so many levels. The media is clearly corrupt. I mean, you find that now because there's so many alternate media sources out there that you actually discover the real truth of what's going on. Whether it's from the deepest interactions of COVID to human trafficking. Why is human trafficking, I'm sorry, but should be all over the news 24/7. It is one of the number one. I think it's become the number one industry right now.
Yeah, it blew my mind when I started working with the anti-trafficking coalitions back in like 2014 or so. And the numbers it just blew my mind. Blew my mind. I had no idea. And most people don't. But when you start seeing the numbers, and I had no idea organ donation was part of it at that point in time. I'm like, what? They're grabbing people and parting them out, and that happens. That happens in other countries, not here, right?
Right, America.
Yeah,
it's America.
No possible way it can be happening right here in my backyard. It is. And you
look at the events that we have. Like I had Nurse Nancy Hill on, and I'm going to be getting that podcast out soon. And she's very involved in a lot of that, in human trafficking. That like the Super Bowl. That's like the number one human trafficking event in America.
I can believe it. When they had the PGA tournament down in Tacoma, and I was talking to law enforcement down there about how do they deal with this influx of people just coming into town. They said their number one thing was the human trafficking. There was they said during the PGA tournament, their number was that there was an import of 10,000 prostitutes for that event. It's nuts. I'm like, what? Are you kidding
That's
me?
a lot of very evil, corrupt people.
Yeah.
That should concern anyone. This is why, folks, you have to be aware. I know you're a mom, you're a single mom, you've got 5 kids, or you got to come home, you got to go to work, you got to come home, you got to make dinner, you don't have time to listen. I can't pay attention to this stuff. It's just too much. The problem is it's not going to be, it's at your doorstep, and eventually it's going to be in your home, whether it's government intrusion. I mean, the government listens to everything we do. These little phones we have here, not to get on a rabbit trail, are nothing but listening devices. And it's listening right now. I should have this thing in a Faraday bag. But my problem is I just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
And that's the thing. We need people that are edgy, right? And you need people that are just
right
in the fold, like, the stuff that I'm doing, that kind of in the middle. And it's even, no matter which side of the polarized carpet that we've
spectrum
developed,
you're on, yeah.
If we just kind of get to the middle and say, let's just quit fighting and being emotional about our beliefs for a minute, and just look at the safety and the happiness of our community.
Well, I was going to say, how do you do that? And I think rhetorically, I'm going to let you answer this too, but I think how do we do that is some of what you're doing with the CITYZEN project. I mean, it sounds to me like there's people from all different political spectrums that are involved in this, but you're keeping the focus on the main thing and not letting the main thing become an alternate thing. Would that be a fair assumption?
Let's just be human for a minute, and that's and do what we do for humans, right? That's
Yeah, let's bring back humanity.
yeah. It's super simple, and it's so simple that it's written on the wall with a paint roller, but we're standing so close to the wall, it just looks like a painted wall. We can't stand back and read it. You know, we've been blinded by all of these things, and I see it on Facebook. You know, there's so much now that's the cyber hacking that's going on, and I've been fighting that. Man, I've been a victim of that over and over. I'm an interesting target because I'm in multiple industries, and you know, trying to avoid getting hacked, getting ransomwared, losing my phone, losing my computer, losing my credit cards, losing my bank account. I've been through every one of those in the last 3 years. It's nuts, and it's all coming from foreign countries. You know, those should be treated as terrorist acts at this point. I was talking to some of the heads of cybersecurity and Comcast a few weeks ago because I'm really, you know, making it robust around all my companies, and they had a great, they had one of the best conversations they said they've ever had with my team because they're very knowledgeable. They said everyone is going to be hacked, lose a credit card, have their bank account hacked, their computers hacked, lose their phone. It's a matter of when. It's not if. Everyone's going to be subjected to this. So, you know, we have to, you know, start cracking down in that arena too. And, you know, and back to human trafficking, when I first came to Bellingham, I thought, okay, I fought the war in King County. I won for my neighborhood. I'm in Bellingham, this great oasis. It's all nice and calm. This is 2019 before the chaos started. And right at Christmas time, the manager of my daycare, petite woman, was shopping at Target, and she went in, she did her thing. She's walking back to her car. She remembers seeing these two guys standing by a van that kind of gave her the heebie-jeebies. But she just, you know, right to her car, didn't keep an eye on them, threw the stuff she bought in the back seat, got in her car, shut the door, clicked her seatbelt, and then her door chime went off. And she's like, oh, I didn't shut my door all the way. No, there's a dude trying to grab her out of the car. Luckily, she had just clicked her seatbelt, so it bought her a little bit of time. So she leaned back and started kicking and screaming. Passenger door opens. The second dude unclicks her seatbelt, drags her out of the passenger's door. So she's screaming bloody murder. People are looking, but not really understanding what's going on. Boyfriend squabble, you know, whatever it is. So then she thought, well, they're just going to steal my car. But no, they were dragging her to the van.
Right.
And so then she really started, you know, and this is a 90-pound woman.
Yeah.
She made enough commotion that people started coming out of the store and made it uncomfortable for these guys. They took off.
This is right here in Bellingham or Auburn?
In Bellingham.
Really?
The Target. And this was 2019.
Really?
This is before it got crazy. It impacted her so much that she wanted to just be with her daughters. She got a job at the school with her daughters, you know, and quit working for Fidevo because, you know, the impact of that, raising a couple daughters, is scary.
So let's just pause for a second, because I think that's very important to know for everyone out there that this shit is real. It's real, and it can happen to you anywhere at any time. And let me tell you, the I-5 corridor, Bellingham on into Canada, is a major trafficking highway, guys. And I hate that we have to live in this society nowadays, because when we were little, we'd drop our bikes off wherever we felt like, we'd go play, and we'd come home at dusk.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, those times are gone.
Yeah, unless you live out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
I was the same way. I raised my kids in the same neighborhood that I grew up in you know, down in Puyallup. And even when they were older, I would drive them everywhere. I wouldn't let them walk like my brother and I did to go catch the Berry bus a mile away. You know, I was always keeping track, because it was started, you know, this started a long time ago, but we had this big spike. And it's opportunity, you know, it's the bad people, just like good people take opportunity to make things better in their lives. Well, the bad people do it the same thing, but they take a different approach, right?
Well, there's always, and the fascinating thing too on that is that for every precaution we take, there's always somebody hacking it. There's always, for every fail safe that we come up with, there's somebody that can break it. There's always the next crime. There's for every firewall, there's somebody building another way to exploit it.
Yeah. And you can get in, and this is what causes the polarity and the chaos. And, in my observation and having worked in high level government programs in the past and then, being involved with, some of the projects that I've done, I'm still interacting with the military and law enforcement on, and I see that you can get overwhelmed emotionally with the mayhem that ensues, depending on how you were raised. It's like I always say, there's no such thing as racism that like we think it is, because we're all, if you get your DNA checked, it's all over the map, right?
Sure.
There's culturalism. There's learned behavior.
Yep.
So you can pick, okay, I'm Italian, bada bing, bada boom. You must cook really good, right? Yeah, right?
That's the first thing I said.
Exactly. That's a cultural thing. You grow up in the kitchen in an Italian family, right? Big meals, you sit down, eating is a big thing in our culture.
It's a tradition in your culture.
Yeah. And so you just pick whatever culture you want and you'll see it's generational learning.
Well, and it's not stereotypes per se. It's just that's a good point that you make. It is your culture. We call them, don't stereotype, but different cultures have that. The Black culture, they're very, they're cooking too. The whole thing about collard greens and fried chicken. I got a Black friend of mine. He's like, yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
That's part of his culture. That's not a slight. That's just
no. I am owner in a minority business enterprise, and it's kind of funny. One of my partners from the Black side, one of my partners Korean, and of course me being Italian. And
a WAP.
And we poke fun at each other all the time, but it's because it's real. Like who's the best dancer? Oh, we already know, right?
Yeah.
Who's the best cook?
Like
we already know.
up.
Who's the best at spreadsheets and math? We already know.
Right.
Yeah. So. And we just have fun with it. It's, to me, I love embracing people's differences.
Absolutely.
I don't.
And it's funny sometimes.
Oh, it's absolutely.
That's why these comedians now, a lot of these comedians are becoming more conservative because and not to get political, but look, there's elements on the left that are so, politically correct that comedy has just gone because you can't make fun of it. And these guys make fun of everything. Dave Chappelle's a perfect example of it. He makes fun of all different kinds. Brilliant. Yeah. And the thing is, guys, you have to laugh. Don't be so freaking. You want to make fun of me? Call me a mayonnaise white cracker. I don't care. I think that shit's funny.
Well, what about age? I'm 60 years old now.
Ageism.
The kids make fun of the dad jokes. I mean, you make a joke and it's like my dad says stuff like that or my grandpa, right?
Yeah.
But that's just
you
what
gotta
happens.
Accept reality. It is what it is. You got to lighten the heck up. If we all could just lighten up and be just more comedy, I think that would solve. We need to start a comedy revolution.
Well, and at the end of the day, let's just be real. Nobody's getting out of this alive, right? And unfortunately,
that's a good point.
It's unfortunate and fortunate that I've lost so many people in my life. And what I've had the privilege of actually sitting with some of them that knew that, I'm only going to be around for a few more weeks, days, months, whatever. And I just start listening to their stories. And if someone had wealth, I never hear a story about, man, I bought this fancy car and this fancy house and I own properties everywhere. I never hear someone who is poor say, I wish I had money to do this, that, I missed out on things. What I hear is the experiences, the stories of experiences with other people in their life. So when I see people taking a picture of Mount Baker, I'm like, get in the picture, get everyone that you're enjoying the day with, put them in the picture, because you can see that picture on the internet now.
Yes.
And I learned that because I was way into photography when I was out in the woods all the time, taking pictures of animals and whatever. And I look back through, I'm like, where was that? I had no idea. But the pictures that had other people in them, I remember that day and this happened and that happened, and have a good laugh or just tell the story, And at the end, all we're going to have is our stories. And so what you do today is what's creating your story. Now, do you want to just be angry and bitter, and be hateful toward whatever emotion you're having on this political spectrum, religious spectrum, whatever it is? I mean, hate corrodes the very container it's held in, right? Which is you. Let that go and just focus on relationships and the stories you can forge through the people that you meet. That's really, to me, that's the value of life. And some people just have amazing stories. I think everyone has a great story. Some people's stories are crazy, and other people's stories, it's just nice to sit back and listen to. Maybe you
That's
came
what
from
it's about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. That's why I'm doing this.
This is a great venue to do it in. Yeah. So, regardless of what I believe in, what you believe in, we can sit here and just have a discussion of, hey, this is what's happening in my life, what's happening in yours, right? And just listen and
Just
embrace
listen.
it. You don't have to argue about it. That's just what's happening.
Well, and that's what I've learned as I'm doing more of these podcasts. I got a lot to say, but I need to just shut up and listen.
Yeah. Listen, when you sit back and listen and you actually just enjoy and embrace someone's experiences, then you understand where they're coming from. That's the learned behavior, and their actions are part of their experiences. And a lot of people can't separate the two. They can't say, because of my experiences, I'm this way. I mean, I'm so screwed up in many ways because of the things that I've experienced through life.
Oh man.
And you just accept that, and that's why I say acceptance and purpose are my two words, right? You accept that, hey, yeah, I react a certain way because I was exposed to certain things. You can change it. I absolutely can change every single thing about myself if I put my mind to it. And that's a true fact. And now maybe you don't want to in certain cases. There's certain things you don't want to let go of, and that's fine too. But we just accept that. But what's your purpose? What's getting you out of bed today? And that's, one thing that I try to provide with CITYZEN is, yes, you can come out, you can do some feel good stuff for the community and brighten your day, especially if you're down, but you're going to meet so many cool people that have a like mind of wanting a nice, peaceful, and safe community. And I'm watching friendships forge before my eyes because
Bridges
of what we're
being
doing.
made, it sounds
Absolutely.
like too.
Yeah.
That's important to me. That's the thing that, I mean, like, I can easily be divisive. I mean, anybody who watches me knows that, but I don't want to be. But I want to peel the scab off.
Yeah.
I want to peel the scab, because if you don't peel the scab, it's not going to heal. You have to expose the wound and let it create antibodies again. And so what I'm trying to do is bring truth forward, and then, say, hey, how do we fix this? We're not always going to agree, but with, like, the Bellingham's Gone to Shit Facebook page has been a really great example of exposing what's going on to the level where we have to look at it now. We can't just turn a blind eye. We can't just go, I don't want to see it. It's right there, and it's spreading. And now the question is, what do we do about it?
Sure.
And here you are doing something about it with CITYZEN.
Yeah. The one thing that I haven't, what I see happening, and I haven't figured out how to overcome that, you brought it up, where the media is used for propaganda and has been forever for bad things, as well as good things like marketing. Now we have this social media, which I never had to deal with when I was younger. You didn't have to deal with when you were younger. It was always a face-to-face conversation. It's easy to be a typewriter tough guy, right? You sit back and you can get a fake name. I call it the Reddit crowd because they encourage it there, and you can have a fake name.
Keyboard warriors.
Yeah, nobody knows who you are, and you can just start trashing on people even if you're 5 years old, right? And so, and people get inflamed by that, and now they're, whether it's AI bots or trolls that have fake accounts, they're using that just to cause this divide and create arguments. And one thing I would recommend to people on social media, you're going to get blasted if you're on social media at all. That's just going to happen. And I just laugh at it because, I don't know if it's some, grade school kid and is hacking into his mom's computer, trashing on me.
Right.
I mean, it's funny to watch in movies, kids that are trash talking adults, and adults are getting all inflamed by it, and he's just having a good time. And so I try to look at it that way.
Well, I think at the end of the day, for me, again, I know I can be controversial, and But my point is to stir up people, and so they think. I want them to think. Anybody who's got, look, I've had people on the other side of the aisle of my opinions say some things. It's like, okay, you know what? That's a good point. I'm a fair guy.
Sure.
If you got me on something where, okay, you know, I'm not gonna go and run off. I'm here to engage, and I'm the first person to say I make mistakes. Right? I got that wrong, and so I think everybody needs to do that. We need to be able to say, okay, I was wrong about that, and you know, I'm listening to you. Okay, we may not agree on a lot of stuff, but you know what? You were right about that thing, and that's just humble ourselves to that point where we can actually hear what other people are saying, and we're not just so caught up in what our own minds are saying.
Yeah. Well, it's funny when, you know, to that point, I decided that, you know, Bellingham's gone to shit is obviously you go in there expecting people to vent about what's going on. Right.
Right.
And so I thought, well, I'm going to throw a positive thing on there and just talk about what CITYZEN's doing. And I threw that out there, and immediately, and it's obviously a troll, they started trashing on me for wanting more bike lanes in Bellingham. You remember that post?
Yeah, I do.
I said nothing about bike lanes. I was just posting up, there's an event that we're doing, a graffiti removal, litter pickup or whatever. Guy starts trashing me about bike lanes. I said, hey, you didn't read the posts. This is not about bike lanes.
And that's what happens sometimes.
And then the second guy comes in, totally different person, you know, calling me names and telling me I'm an idiot because I want more bike lanes in Bellingham. Like,
well, you know what? Honestly, I think I got caught up in that. I didn't see the original post.
Yeah.
I was commenting on what other people commented, and I made a comment about, okay, we can't build a jail. We can't get rehab for fentanyl addicts, but we can build bike lanes. That was I'm not sure if it's the same post, so I admit that I didn't see the original post. I got caught up in the comments. So it's a good point on what you're saying is we have to kind of go, okay, hold on, let's slow down. Let's take a 20,000 foot view instead of what you were saying earlier. We're right here. We can't see anything but what's right in front of our face. And look, I'm just as guilty.
Yeah. So somebody, you know, there are people in this world, maybe they have an agenda, maybe they're just having fun, that just try to
trolls
spark,
will be trolls.
They try to spark arguments.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's up to us to be intelligent and just stand back and say, okay, you know, give it the sniff test.
I don't want to spark arguments. I want to provoke thought.
Exactly. So
Big difference.
There's a big difference. So when someone goes in there and just makes these outlandish comments that have nothing to do with the original post,
yeah,
they're just trying to spark an argument.
And I think as administrators, we try to keep an eye on that. But it takes everyone, and there's been people that have said, hey, this is this, and we take a look at it and go, okay, you know, again, you know, we try to keep that page as free speech as possible. We allow a lot of we let it kind of manage itself. Plus Facebook's ridiculous. I mean, Facebook removes stuff all the time that people go, hey, why was my post removed? I was like, I didn't remove it.
It wasn't us. Yeah.
It wasn't me. It was Facebook, you know.
I've had the admin role before, and you know, it's hard to keep track, especially when something just starts having hundreds of comments. Oh my God, I got to read through all of this.
Yeah. Well, you know, we're kind of like the sheriff's department. You know, we're not here to take away your rights. We're just here to you know, we use discretion. I'm a free speech advocate. So long as it's not offensive, you know, if a certain amount of people start complaining, then it's like, okay, you're going to get a warning. You're going to get another warning. Third time, you're gone. It's just that because the community's complaining now. Okay. It's somewhat of a democracy in that I've got enough people complaining. I'm sorry. You've been warned. You didn't change what you're doing. People are still complaining. See you later. Yeah. You know, so anyway, but I mean, I think, again, getting back to the Bellingham's Gone to Shit page, which is a perfect segue to talk about the page. It was, you know, I interviewed James Lynch. It was done just as kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing to document just some of the kind of nasty stuff that was starting to happen. And it's
necessary evil at the time.
Yeah. And it's gone from like, you know, 500 to in 2 years, over 8,000. 8,000 people. We're pushing. We're in the midway. I gotta say we're probably about between 8,000 plus. You know, there's a lot of people in Bellingham for a long time now have not had a voice. Okay, they have not had a way to express their grievances, and people kind of joke about, oh, it's just a complaint page. Okay, well, you know, then you don't have to complain. You can also just say goodness, but we got things like Bellingham Metro News that's on there that was started by Fernando Gonzalez, who I'd love to interview him. We've got, now we're getting in your CITYZEN. It's a place, you get 8,000 plus people, and it's only going to grow. It has the potential to rebuild the community. Look, we got politicians paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
We got law enforcement now paying attention.
Yep.
We got law enforcement posting, Bellingham police post stuff on there, and so just because some guy, average dude named James Lynch, decided to start a page to expose or document what's going on, now look at what it's evolved into. It's amazing.
And imagine when it's called Bellingham went to shit, then we came back.
That's good. That's good. I'll drink to that. Guys, there you go right there. I think, man, what a great way to kind of end this. Let's make that a goal. Let's make it a goal that someday we can say, hey, Bellingham went to shit.
And we brought it back.
And we brought it back. And ladies and gentlemen, I think it's pretty clear that that's what Steve's trying to do here. And what a fascinating story. All the stuff he's done and been through. And, he's got his political opinions, and he's willing to set those aside to come together and do what's best for the community and work with people from both sides of the aisle. And that's inspiring to me because I tend to be, I lean a certain way, obviously. I'm inspired by people like you, Steve. We need guys like you who inspire others with strong opinions to get outside of their comfort zone and work for those who they may not normally disagree with for something that we can all agree on.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would love to meet with more like-minded people that are, it's scary to take that step out. We're especially in a judgmental area, and there's a lot of areas now that you're going to be judged no matter what you say. No matter what you say, somebody's going to be up in your face.
So let me ask you this, 2 things before we close. What's one thing that concerns you the most? What's one thing that keeps you up at night? Whether it's political, whether it's locally, whether it's in, what's something that you're really concerned about?
Yeah, really what concerns me is just public safety. It's, what I see on the streets, it's having been a single parent, and haven't seen the bad things in the world that can happen that people aren't aware of, haven't been exposed to. Just because you haven't been exposed to something doesn't mean it isn't happening. And there's a lot of,
that's very good.
And so your awareness is based on your experience, and the people that maybe live out of Bellingham, they don't realize how bad it is, or maybe they're not living right next door to the Walmart encampment, right?
Right. It's not happening in my neighborhood, so therefore it's not
be
happening.
A problem. Yeah.
Right. Must not be a problem.
It's, start looking out for the other people and paying attention. And if you have more people getting involved, then the powers that be are going to get involved. I mean, I look at the new mayor and what she's accomplished already in 4 months.
I'm actually, pretty positive so far on the new mayor. Even though typically she would be considered on the other side of the aisle from me, I've been very, encouraged by some of the things she said and seems to be doing. Yeah. I'd love to interview her sometime.
You should. I don't think, she's. What I really appreciate about her is she's an engineer. She thinks methodically.
And that's your background too.
That's
right?
my background. So hey, let's throw
Process.
logic. Let's throw logic into this. Yeah. We're gonna do an experiment. We're gonna try this. We're gonna weigh it with metrics, and we're gonna see how that works. And based on that outcome, now we're gonna refine it. Right. Mm-hmm. Refine the process. And I see her implementing a very logical path through the mayhem of emotion that's going on.
It's very emotionally. What's going on in Bellingham is very emotionally charged right now.
If you set emotion, there's no logic in emotion. Of course, emotion is going to, just take Bellingham has gone to shit as an example. You fire up a page like that, people come in and they just start blasting, right?
Sure.
It gives them an outlet to vent.
Yep.
Venting is no solution. There's no problem solving
it's
going
good to have a place to vent
raises
and
awareness.
to expose. It raises awareness because awareness then creates the ability to see the problem and then come up with a solution, I would say.
Yeah. So if I'm sitting in that chair, it's like, okay, I'm going to look for these triggering pages and say, okay, what is everybody really upset about emotionally? Is there any validation to it? Yes. Okay. We'll check that box. Now, what are we going to do to problem solve this? And you start throwing stuff up on the whiteboard, right? Okay, let's try these things here. transparency. You can't, when you're working in a laboratory environment, which I've done for many years, the last thing emotion has to stay out. Pride has to stay out.
That's
I
hard.
know that this is going to work. I just know it. You run the experiment. It doesn't work. You must have ran it wrong, right? Do it again, right? And in some cases, I've seen people just keep driving down the trail because they know that that's the answer. Well, it isn't. You've clearly run the experiment a million times and had the same result. Now you're just, going psycho. But if you run an experiment and everyone is honest about what happened, and transparency is one of her big things. Through her whole staff, everybody be transparent, even if you screw up, right? If you see something, it takes all the emotion out of it. It's just numbers now. Here's what we did. Here was the result. What are we doing next? That's how you make progress, and that's what I see her doing.
Absolutely.
I applaud it.
I applaud it too. And look, like I said, what she may originally come from the other side of the aisle from me in a political opinion sense, I don't care. I don't care. If she's doing the right thing, I'll work with her. I will support her. And look, I would love to interview the mayor sometime because just touching back on one thing that you said earlier that made me think of this quote I came up, and that's the old thing is people in the county and other kind of, I'm not really concerned about what's going on in Bellingham. What happens in Bellingham does not just stay in Bellingham.
Correct.
It is a big enough city in this county. It affects everyone. It spills out. So everyone in Whatcom County needs to be aware of what's going on in Bellingham and needs to be partaking in having an opinion on it, whether you live there or not, because it does affect you. And being aware of what the new mayor, I think it's good that everyone gets to know this new mayor and supports her and pays attention to what she's doing. And, it seems like there might be some hope at the end of the tunnel. The one other thing is I asked you what's something that keeps you up at night. What's something that gives you hope that you're seeing going on right now?
Well, what really gives me hope is the things that I've talked about, that anytime I've built a team, all the emotion goes away and people get back to humanity, right? We get back to being people again.
Is it the team building aspect of that?
Well, it's part of it's, you have to build a team to get people together. But once they get together, what you see is acceptance of other people because now you're driven together on a project. Whenever it's just like being on a football team, basketball team, whatever, there's always differences between the players. Right. But when they're on that field, they bond.
Your tribe.
Yeah.
That's tribalism at its finest right there.
Yep.
This is my tribe. I support my team, my tribe, yeah.
And then once that happens, there's this bond that forms that is always there regardless of polarity. And so you start cutting each other slack. You start seeing where you're coming from on the other side of the tracks. And then that's what builds a community.
Absolutely.
And I always say you can't have a community without unity. Literally, unity is the word inside of community, right? If you take that out, you have calm.
You can't have community without unity. Folks, I think that's the perfect spot to end right there. I mean, what a better spot. I mean, I think that says it all, really. You know what? Steve, it has been an honor, man. I tell you what, you are a fascinating guy, and there's just lots of stuff we could talk about, and I hope to have you on again soon and keep an eye on what's going on with CITYZEN and all your projects. I support it, and I'm glad I was able to interview you today and get to know more about it. And one more time, give the website.
Oh, yeah, CITYZENnow.com.
CITYZENnow.com. Guys, let's get involved in this in Bellingham. Let's see if we can change it from Bellingham's gone to shit to Bellingham. What was it?
It went to shit.
Bellingham went to shit. Came back. We'll come up with something, but
set the standard for the whole nation.
I'll change the name. I got James. We'll change it. Let's make that a goal. Instead of Bellingham's gone to shit to Bellingham went to shit. Steve, thanks again for coming in. We appreciate it so much.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me.
All right, guys, that's it for the Urban Outcast this time around. We'll see you again soon. Take care.